Today, we dive into one of the most serious global flashpoints of 2026, Iran on high alert as the US prepares for serious military pressure with its aircraft carrier forces moving into the Middle East. What's happening right now? What are the real stakes? And why are world powers scrambling to prevent a full-scale confrontation? Stay tuned. In the last few weeks, the United States has been steadily moving powerful naval assets, including the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group, toward the Persian Gulf and the broader Middle East region. Officials say this is a calculated response to rising tensions with Iran over its nuclear program, ballistic missile development, and support for proxy groups across the region. This buildup is an armada heading toward Iran's coast, a clear signal that the US wants to demonstrate overwhelming force if negotiations fail. These forces aren't just symbolic. An aircraft carrier strike group revolves around a floating city of warfighters, capable of launching up to approximately 90 aircraft, including fighter jets, reconnaissance planes, and electronic warfare aircraft. Those assets can operate for weeks or months without needing local bases, giving Washington enormous reach if it chooses to use military force. The Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is accompanied by destroyers, cruisers, and advanced radar and missile defense systems. U.S. officials emphasize that this deployment gives Washington options, defensive and offensive, in a crisis. But the buildup hasn't been one-sided. Iran's leadership has warned that any attack, whether limited, surgical, or kinetic, would be treated as an all-out war against the Islamic Republic. A senior Iranian official declared that Tehran's military is preparing for the worst-case scenario, and says its forces are ready for the hardest possible response. Iranian military leaders have repeatedly said that if Washington moves to strike Iranian territory, Iran will respond forcefully, potentially including missile attacks on U.S. bases in the region and the Gulf of Oman. This animosity is not abstract, it has real consequences. In early February, a U.S. F-35 fighter jet shot down an Iranian drone that approached the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. The Pentagon described the engagement as defensive, aimed at protecting the carrier and personnel aboard. Iranian forces did not confirm the drone's intentions, and tensions spiked as a result. Military analysts say the proximity of advanced systems like destroyers and fighters means miscalculations could escalate fast. A stray missile, an accidental confrontation at sea, or even a misunderstood maneuver by either side could spiral into a broader conflict. Diplomacy is still in play. Last week, indirect nuclear talks between the US and Iran took place in Oman, a long-used diplomatic channel between the rivals, but Tehran continues to insist that any meaningful agreement must focus first on nuclear issues, without concessions on missiles or regional alliances. President Trump has publicly stated that a diplomatic solution is preferred, but he has also warned that time is running out and that the next US attack could be far worse than past actions if Iran doesn't compromise. Iran has also publicly warned countries that might assist the US in a conflict, such as providing airspace or basing rights, that such actions could be considered hostile and have severe consequences. Experts say Iran's strategy has elements of asymmetric warfare, deploying submarines like the Fateh and Ghadar classes into strategic waterways such as the Strait of Hormuz, which is a choke point for global oil shipments. These assets are intended to threaten larger, more expensive surface ships if confrontation turns. Kineticals step back and understand why all this matters. The Persian Gulf is one of the world's most economically critical regions, responsible for a large share of global oil exports. The Strait of Hormuz alone is a narrow corridor through which roughly a fifth of global seaborne oil passes every day. A conflict here wouldn't just be geopolitical, it could disrupt energy markets worldwide. Historically, US-Iran tensions have already triggered major incidents. In 1988, a U.S. Navy warship mistakenly downed an Iranian civilian airliner, killing 290 people in one of the deadliest aviation disasters in the Gulf, a reminder of how quickly things can go wrong when militaries operate close to each other. There's also the ever-present risk of proxy escalations. Iran supports militias and groups in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, all of which could be dragged into hostilities if tensions break into open conflict. Likewise, the U.S. coordinates heavily with partners such as Israel, whose leadership has repeatedly advocated for tough action against Iranian influence. Today, world leaders are walking a precarious tightrope. On one hand, the US says it wants to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to check Iran's influence. On the other hand, both Washington and Tehran say they would prefer to avoid war. But the heavy military deployments, the stern rhetoric, and the close encounters at sea indicate that both sides are preparing for something more serious than mere negotiation. So what could happen next? One scenario is a breakthrough in diplomacy. Indirect negotiations could expand, confidence-building measures could be agreed, and both sides might back away from the brink. But that requires trust, which is in short supply after years of conflict, sanctions, and military strikes. And then there's the unpredictable flashpoint, a confrontation that neither side intended, fueled by high-alert forces, public pressure, and political dynamics that make backing down politically costly. What's not in doubt is that the world is watching one of the most dangerous geopolitical standoffs in recent memory. Iran is on high alert. The United States has sent a powerful naval force into striking distance. Diplomacy continues under pressure, and both sides have made it clear they're ready to defend what they perceive as vital interests. If you found this analysis helpful, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more updates. Let us know in the comments, do you think this situation will end in war or peace?